Hi guys, today I want to talk about what it means to have Mars square Pluto in your birth chart. I know this is a very specific placement, but I really wanted to talk about it because this is one of those challenging aspects in a birth chart. A lot of people tend to misinterpret this aspect, saying that, it can manifest as a tendency towards violence, a lot of aggression, a lot of aggressive behavior. So I just wanted to clear some misconceptions about this placement, what it is to have this aspect, what it is, what does the native, the person who has this aspect, what are the kind of challenges they may go through in this life. So if you're interested in this, if you have this placement, and if you resonate, then definitely keep watching. Before I start with the rest of the video, I wanted to let you know that I do natal chart readings, I do synastry chart readings, and I do tarot. So if you'd like to contact me for any of these readings, drop me a message on my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Venusianscorp. You can also drop me an email at astroluck111@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Both the links are in the description box, so you can drop me a message for any of these readings. So let's get started. We are talking about Mars square Pluto today. So the square is a difficult, it's a difficult placement. It's one of the harsher aspects. So Mars represents our drive, Mars represents our ambition, our will to turn our ideas into action. So it's a very action oriented planet, right? It's masculine. Pluto is the planet of transformation and change, and it rules the eighth house, which is Scorpio. It is about very deep upheavals, very deep transformations, things that can really uproot your life. And you feel like it's the worst devastation, but then once you go through that cathartic change, you realize it was for the better. That's what Pluto is. Pluto transforms, but it transforms you to teach you a lesson, to make things better for you, to clear blockages. That's what Pluto does. When you've got Mars square Pluto, what's happening is Pluto is our subconscious drive. If Mars is our conscious drive, things that we are conscious about and we go about achieving, Pluto is our subconscious drive. Pluto is the stuff that we keep repressed. Pluto is the stuff that we don't want to face. Pluto is the stuff that it's like our shadow side. It's the things that we don't want to accept about ourselves, so it's hidden. It's not something that we are aware of. When you've got Mars square Pluto, the energies of these two planets are not in harmony. If you've got a trine or a sextile between Mars and Pluto, these are relatively easier energies because there is a natural integration between the energies of these two planets. When you've got a square, it is a challenging aspect because these two are like they are like at a standstill. They cannot meet each other at a common ground. They cannot compromise with each other. I think that's the word that I'm looking for. These two energies cannot compromise with each other when they're in a square aspect with each other. So what typically happens is the outlet for Mars, it's going to be heavily impacted by the energy of Pluto because they are making an aspect with each other. What does that mean practically? So you may find that when you get angry, because Mars is also anger, when you get angry, that anger comes out of a place which you were not aware of. Like that anger can seem to boil up from a place that is deep within, which you are not conscious about, and it can erupt like a volcano, literally. Like you can be terrified of your own anger sometimes because the way it manifests, the way the Mars energy manifests, which is your anger as well, that's going to stem from a very deep subconscious part of your mind, which is Pluto. But it's going to feel like you don't have control over it. Like when you get angry, you're going to feel like it's, first of all, it's coming out of nowhere. And secondly, you're going to feel like you don't have control over it. Like just like a volcano, like it's going to erupt out of nowhere. And usually it is going to be in a destructive way. That, of course, is going to depend on your whole chart. Like I always say, this is just an individual placement and aspect that I'm talking about. But it's going to depend on your Mars, which sign your Mars is in. Like you could have a Mars in Capricorn, which is exalted, and definitely your expression of that energy of Mars, or even your anger, the way you express it, is going to be very different from, let's say, somebody who's got Mars in Sagittarius, which is a fire energy, which is much more impulsive, and which is like very impulsive, very spontaneous. It's like a quick burst of fire. That's kind of Mars in Sagittarius. So the expression of Mars is going to depend on the sign that your Mars is in, also the house that your Mars is in. Like you could have a Mars in the 7th house. So usually your anger is going to erupt around relationship issues. It's going to erupt around romantic partnerships. That's where you're going to feel the most rage or the most anger. I mean, that's when it's going to manifest more in close partnerships. So it depends on the house as well. But in general, Mars square Pluto is going to give you like guts of steel. And that's the positive manifestation of this placement. Like, despite the fact that your anger issues, you do have anger issues. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I don't do that on my channel. Like, I know a lot of people, when they talk about astrology, they are going to sugarcoat it. They're going to make it sound like everything is very rosy, everything is very, perfect. But no, I'm here to talk about the truth. I'm a Sagittarius sun. My duty here is to tell you the truth. And I don't sugarcoat stuff. Like, if it's not a pleasant placement, then I'm going to tell you it's not a pleasant placement. So Mars square Pluto is not a pleasant placement. If you have this in your birth chart, Bruce Lee had this placement in his birth chart, and as you know, he's a very, very heavily Plutonian person. The other day, I made a post on my YouTube channel talking about heavily Plutonian people, like people who have very strong Pluto aspects in their birth chart. So maybe Pluto in aspect to Sun, Venus, Mars, like the close planets like that are directly impacting your life. If you have very strong aspects to Pluto, then that makes you a Plutonian person. And that post that I made, it was talking about how heavily Plutonian people, they go through some of the biggest crises in life. They have a lot of baser tendencies that are holding them back, like rage, anger, jealousy, possessiveness, control issues, all those things. And that's why shadow work is so extremely important for them, because that really helps them elevate to a higher level. And the more distilled the energy becomes of Pluto, the more you ascend, and the more the higher vibration you operate in. And Bruce Lee is a prime example of this, because he not only had Mars square Pluto, but he also had a Scorpio moon. Very, very scorpionic, very, very plutonic. And as you can see, he used his Mars, and he was into martial arts, one of the best martial arts persons in the world, and he transformed that into an expression of power. That is using your power, your drive, which is Mars, and channeling it into something, an expression of power, which is Pluto, right? And he also was very spiritual. He had a Sagittarius sun, which is again very spiritual, very philosophical. But the Scorpio moon is also about going to the depths and coming up with truths that are so revealing. Even now, if you look at Bruce Lee's quotes, they are so deep and so profound, and they are so filled with power and truth, right? So that is the manifestation, like the higher vibration manifestation of Mars square Pluto, where you take something that is primal energy, which is Mars and Pluto, and you take that challenging aspect, which is a square, and you learn to work with it in a way where you harness that Mars energy, make it into something that is controllable, not letting it free like a volcano erupting everywhere and leaving destruction everywhere. But you take that energy of Mars and mold it into something that can be beneficial to society. All of the religious texts, and I'm not a religious person per se, but I'm a very spiritual person, so I will say this: it doesn't depend which religion or which faith you adopt, or even if you're an atheist, right? But bottom line is, all spiritual books and texts say the same thing, that helping mankind, helping human beings is your greatest calling and purpose in life. That's the most fulfilling purpose that you can have in your life. And this is me as a Pisces midheaven speaking to you, because that is pretty much what I do on this channel and what I do through my astrology. I help people using the eighth house matters of occult and astrology, tarot, and things like that. My south node is in the eighth house. So doing good for people, helping people out, is the most important thing that you can do. And wherever you have challenging aspects in your birth chart, if you can use those to channel that into the greater good for human beings, for the people around you, that's when you're taking something that could manifest as a lower vibration energy. Like in the lowest vibration of Mars square Pluto, you could be one of the most violent, you could be one of the most abusive, destructive person on the planet. But that is like the lowest vibration, lowest octave of this energy. The highest vibration, which is what Bruce Lee exemplifies, is taking that Martian energy, which is so difficult to control, especially when it's at a hard aspect like the square to Pluto. And Pluto doesn't take orders, neither does Mars. And that's why these two being in a square can be extremely volatile for the person. Like in their childhood, these people may have faced abuse. I'm not going to lie, like this does have, they could have been the victim. That's again the Pluto issue of power and control coming in, right? Pluto can make you either the victim or the abuser, but it's up to you how to strike a middle ground so that you don't end up being either of the two. It's learning to control that power, not even control, but it's learning to embrace that power. I think embrace is the word that I'm looking for. When you're heavily Plutonian, you may feel a sense of volatility inside of you, especially with the Mars square Pluto, because these are two very volatile energies. And Pluto, especially because it's coming out of nowhere, it's from your subconscious mind, and Pluto always wants control. Even though Mars is the more outwardly aggressive energy, Pluto is the one that wants domination, that wants control. So these two are at odds with each other. They both are vying for competition, they're both vying to win. So it's always an internal struggle between you to keep those anger issues under control, you know. And that can manifest in many different ways. Like if you're not careful, if you haven't learned to embrace your Pluto energy, like accept it for what it is, and then learn to work with it and channel it into something that is beneficial for other people, then you're going to be stuck in that lower octave vibration, which is about taking out that Mars energy in a destructive way, right? So Mars can be channeled in many different ways. Mars is your drive, Mars is your ambition, Mars is your anger. You can use anger to make it into something compassionate as well, right? It doesn't always have to come out as anger. You can use your Mars, which is your ambition and drive, and turn it into taking up a social cause. Like you could have a Mars in Aquarius and channel that Martian energy into doing something that is for a humanitarian cause, you know. So it all depends on how you use your Mars energy. Also, like I said in my post, it depends on how much shadow work you're doing on yourself. Like the square is especially challenging because this is not a harmonious blend. So it's about using these two energies and being conscious of when your baser tendencies like your anger, jealousy, control issues, especially because it's Pluto we're talking about, it's important to be aware of when these things are taking a grip on you, because it's very easy for a person with this placement to get like sucked into that abyss of really negative emotions and negative vibrations. Like they can feel like it's like a vice like grip on them. They can literally feel that way because it's Pluto here. It's not a light-hearted placement. We're talking about Pluto here. So you can feel sometimes that you are being drawn into this well and like you are not able to come out of these negative tendencies. And that's why I always say like meditation is so important, because when you sit with that feeling, when you sit with that emotion that you're feeling at that moment, then you see it for what it is. Because a lot of the times the anger that you're feeling is usually sadness that is in disguise. It's an outer layer for sadness of some sort. So like I said, in your childhood, you may have faced issues around abuse. You may have been the victim of a lot of trauma while growing up. And you can choose to either continue to be the victim, that oh my god, I suffered so much in my childhood and the world is bad and everybody is bad, so that gives rise to trust issues as well, right? Like you may not want to trust anybody in the world because you think everybody is bad, everybody is out to get you. That is like the victim mode, martyr mode manifestation of Pluto. And on the flip side, which is the other extreme, you can feel like I'm never going to be a victim again, I'm going to give them a dose of their own medicine, I'm going to show them, you know, and then you become like this tyrant, you become like this oppressive person that people find very difficult to get along with. That's like the other extreme. So the key here is to strike a balance is to look at both the things and realize that at the end of the day, everything is Maya, everything is illusion. It is true, like if this year 2020 has taught us anything, it is a fact that nothing is constant. Everything is subject to change. Like literally everything is an illusion. And so it's about taking these two extremes, these polar opposites of victim and tyrant, and combining these two and realizing that, you know what, nobody holds the power over me. It's only me who has control and power over my life, and I get to choose what I want to do with these powers, right? Once you accept that you are in control, and once you feel you're in control, then that's when the healing journey begins. That's when you start to use these energies um, in a positive way. I don't like to use positive and negative like as words in when I talk about these energies, because in my mind, in my vocabulary, nothing is positive or negative. There is no light or dark. You know, like I said, it's all an illusion. There are both in this world, and both are needed to survive. Like you need both energies, and nothing is good or bad. One person who thinks something is bad, somebody else may think that's good. So it's all subjective as well, right? So anyway, I think I'm rambling a little bit, but what I wanted to say is this energy, yes, it's a very big challenge to have. If you have in your birth chart, you could have been the subject of a lot of traumatic experiences in your life, because Mars is our agency of drive, you know. So you may have been, when you were younger, you may have been made to feel like you were not in control of anything. That's again that Pluto dynamic creeping in. You may have felt like you were not in control of anything. You may have felt like really made to feel subservient to something, so you felt like a victim, like you had no agency over your life. A lot of things like that, and it depends where your Mars is, where your Pluto is. Like you could have had Mars in the 7th house, so these issues may have crept out around romantic relationships, where a romantic partner may have made you feel that way. And so like trust issues can come up as a result of this. You may feel like you can never trust again, but that's, like I said before, that's like the extreme manifestation where you completely isolate yourself, you completely cut yourself off, you close off your heart chakra, you don't want to open up to anybody. But then you will be lonely. Like you will not have friends, you will not have close people to you, because you are not opening up to people. That is not a pleasant way to live, because we are all social people. Like we need social interaction, we need people to function. Like we are all social beings, nobody is an island. And so, you know, when you close yourself up like that, and this is me talking as a Scorpio stellium, like, you know, I have been through this journey like a lot of you guys, and I've come to the realization, like I know in my previous videos I used to say a lot, like, you know, Scorpionic people, we should never trust people, we should never open up. And I know a lot of my videos were along those lines. But, you know, as I've evolved on this journey, I feel like love is the answer, compassion is the answer. And really, like, it takes a lot to get there. But, you know, if you can open yourself up and be vulnerable, I think that is strength, that is real strength, because it's so easy to be guarded, right? Like everybody around us is doing that. Like how many people are you seeing that are really vulnerable, that are open to helping other people out, who are vulnerable with their emotions, who can talk about things, who are okay to be like ripped apart, and, like, you know, who are okay to be hurt? Very few. A lot of people are very closed up, they're very jaded, they're very bitter, cynical towards life. And that's like you're holding on to the poison inside you. You're not letting go of that poison, that scorpionic plutonic poison, which is eating you up inside, from inside. Like you don't realize it, but it's like sapping the life force out of you. So it's really important to like let go of that poison, drain that poison out of your system, and you will feel so good, because, you know, you will let the light in. And once you have that sunlight within you, within yourself, you will exude that radiance, and you will feel like life is a beautiful journey, the world is a beautiful place. Yeah, I mean, not everybody is good, not everybody has good intentions, but that doesn't mean everybody is like that. Like making a blanket assumption like that is never healthy, and that's the negative manifestation of Pluto or Scorpio, which causes so many people to cut off from relationships, like stop engaging with people in an authentic way. So, you know, yeah, that's what I wanted to say, that Mars square Pluto is difficult, but it's not the end of the world. It's definitely you can definitely transcend plutonic energies, but it requires a lot of introspection, It requires being honest with yourself. I think most of all, most importantly, you have to be honest with yourself. Because if you can't be honest with yourself and say that, you know what, this is where I goofed up, this is where I messed up, and yeah, I do have these toxic traits, like you have to be honest with yourself. Because if you're not being honest with yourself, you're not meeting yourself there. Like you're not seeing yourself for who you really are, and you're not being conscious of that quality. If you're not conscious of it, you're not bringing it into the light, and therefore it's never healed, you know. So being in denial is never an answer. It's never a good option. So guys, that's a little bit about Mars square Pluto. I know I went into sort of like a philosophical tangent there, but that's my Sagittarius side speaking. I hope it wasn't too boring for you guys. If you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe to my channel. If you resonated with this video, if you have this placement, do share your experiences in the comment box. I love to read your answers. I love to interact with you guys. So that's it for today, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.